Okay, welcome everybody this morning. We're going to begin our little talk, and people have questions. I'm sure there'll be some questions we'll try to answer. My name is Leonard. I live in Aztec, outside of Aztec, New Mexico. I also have a ranch about 70 miles southeast of this area on the Jicarilla Reservation. And so my wife is Jicarilla, and we have about 12 and a half sections there, which we do have wild horses on that area too. But my part recently has been with JMHA, Farmer Kipper here, president of JMHA. I am on the board, and I have been trained to work with PZP. And PZP is kind of a fancy term that we use, but I like the term a lot better than trying to pronounce what PZP really stands for. Porcine Zona Palisada Contraceptive Vaccine for wild horses. So we'll call it PZP. I'm just going to give you a little quick brief history of wild horse contraception, because that is what this is. This is fertility control for Mustangs on the Carson Forest. We're trying to manage their numbers. And this has been very effective in other areas. It's a very relatively uninvasive procedure and safe. And so those are the kind of things that ring my bell. Because I'm a horse lover, lifelong horse lover, horse owner, Mustang trainer. They're in my backyard right now, stuff like that. So I like the non-invasive approach. But we're faced with a problem. And the problem is that we have a limited amount of forage and feed in those areas, and they reproduce pretty quickly. And unlike big game, elk and deer, they don't normally jump fences. They can, but they don't normally jump fences, so they stay within an area. We don't have managed hunting for them, thank God, because like we do, we can manage the number of big game. Good morning, Robert. But with the horses, we don't do that. So we have to look at other means of managing these numbers. And contraception is one of the ways we're attempting to do that. You're going to hear about other methods as far as bait trapping and things along that line. But I'm going to give you just a little introduction. The conceptual idea to manage wild horses through contraception originated in Billings, Montana in 1971, with the BLM horse specialist for the prior mountain herd. The first counts motility through application of long-lasting steroidal hormones. After studies with domestic pony stallions, the University of Pennsylvania, the first field tests were conducted in Challis, Idaho, wild horse range in the late 70s, using long-acting form of administered sex testosterone. That's what it was. This is not where we're at today, but this was the early days of this. And they had some success, but the goals were not reached. And so it developed on beyond this. And that's what we're going to get to, this fancy term that I talked about, the long-acting PZP. Despite the early successes, there was an obvious need for a longer-acting form of vaccine that could be applied with a single treatment. In the initial attempt, PZP antigen was encapsulated in lactide glycoid microspheres, a formulation tested on BLM horses in Nevada. Results were encouraging, but there were problems delivering the microspheres, which made it impractical. So there was a gentleman there in Montana that worked very, very hard to get these PZP pellets hand injected into the muscle, but he said it was just impractical for a lot of these wild herds. The disadvantage of the pellets is that the manufacturing process, a lot of wastage of PZP, therefore the cost is just way too high. So later on we moved into what we call today is truly the PZP that is delivered by a remote injection. And essentially what I do is I mix it in the field. It has to remain cold, has to remain frozen until you're ready to use it, which that's difficult in hot weather. things of that nature. So we've tried to mitigate that we've got a lot better cooler technology and stuff today, and mix it. And then you've got to sneak up on a horse, one that will you target a mare and shoot her in a large muscle area, preferably the hips. And if everything works out according to plans, she should be, it confuses their system. It's not a drug that does anything more than confuses their system, because it's actually pork ovaries that have been rendered. So when they are bred by a stallion, the sperm does not recognize where to go and what's going on. It just confuses it so you don't get a pregnancy. And the test has proven that usually an initial one-shot injection will probably render the mare sterile for 22 months. And if we can get a booster shot into that mare after that, in 6 weeks or so, we can get 3 years. So it's definitely changing things. The problem we run into, and I know our friends here, Robert, knows better than I and Mike, that these horses are not very compliant. It takes a lot to hunt them down, get within range, identify them, and not dart the same horse again, too. So we do use a 1, 2, 3 form, which we fill out, and we try to take pictures of every darting, and things of that nature, so we know if we don't target this mare again and again once we get the booster and stuff. So it's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge. But we're just early to the game here in the Carson district for the Hickory horses. It had been done some by the Forest Service before, but it was kind of a hit and miss type thing. And so we're not seeing overall results that are where we need to be. Barb and I have talked at length about this. With the latest aerial count of horses, we don't know how close that is. We think it's pretty close, but I think we're a little short. We're a little short. So we could have anywhere from 280 to maybe 350 horses. Well, to stay ahead of the curve on these mares, we need to dart about 100 mares a year. And that's a challenge. Because a lot of times you go out there, you might get one a day if you're really lucky, if you're really good. You might not get any, because horses aren't predictable. I mean, they're in their district, they're in that area. You're in a heavy timbered area, high winds make darting almost impossible. When you're shooting a blind partridge that's shooting dark, any distance over 30 yards, it can carry your dart off into no man's land. But we've got a lot better guns nowadays than they used to have. But you'll see a lot of these demonstrations about PZP darting, and you'll see a lot of people like they're on feed grounds and different things like that, where the horses are kind of standing around eating and stuff, and it can be very successful like that, but that's not the way it works out here. They're like hunting elk. They're like, I liken it to, I'm a hunter, and I'm a bow hunter too, and hunting a selecting bull elk with a bow, and not basically an old stick bow. So you've got to get in with 30, 40, 50 yards. You've got to be able to get in, and they're not like a single bull elk, because generally there's a whole herd of horses, and all these ears, and all these nose and everything, they're listening, watching, and those stallions, they kind of watch out for everything. And the lead mare leaves out, but he can come back and see it too. So you kind of got to watch that sometimes. So anyway, it's a challenge. It's interesting. I'm anxious to hear a little bit more about automated PZP darting, and I haven't heard much about that, so we're going to hear a little bit more about that. But if you have any questions for me, go ahead and throw them out. Yes, sir.
So what is the cost of a serum darting? Is it an expensive process, or is it just the time it takes the man?
And I didn't really get
The question was, how much is the vaccine? The vaccine is $35.
Okay.
The cost of the manpower.
the manpower is where it is, because generally when I go out, leave here and go out in a darting day, I don't run around 220 miles on my vehicle. And it makes for a pretty long day because you're running these roads, you're walking out these canyons, you're coming back out. There's no horses there moving around, so it is costly. We've never really sat down and say, how much is it costing us to dart a single horse? But it's in the hundreds of dollars. I know that. I can definitely tell you that.
Are you the only one in your area?
No. We have two other darters right now. Elvira Aviso and Caleb Hodges. They're certified darter. And also Robert Jordan here is also certified.
Two folks also.
Yeah. So I'm the only one that, we're the only ones with JMHA, but they're with Homeland. So we have other darters. So, any other questions?
Why don't you trap them? You know, we take a big trap to remove them, to trap them and dart them.
Good question. I don't know, but generally, I'm going to let Robert address that because he does the bait trapping, and a lot of times when they're targeting horses that for removal that need to be removed and different things of that nature, and these are some of the horses that end up going to adoption, and some of the horses you'll find right here today comes.
Is there a better time of the year to be doing that?
Absolutely. I think probably in late fall or winter, maybe even early spring, might be the best. Plus you've got cooler temperatures. The horses seem to be a little less flighty. When they start having babies, when they start dropping foals, whoa, because they're watching for every predator, they're watching for everything, and they get pretty difficult to get up on. So I would say that might be a better time. Only on the converse side of that when the water begins to dwindle, and we do have a problem with water, then they begin to congregate a little bit more. Not so much that they join up, but they do congregate because they're competing for what's left, that resource that's left. So it's hard to say. Anybody else?
Well, I just wanted to look. So you do have to, in addition to the training for darting, you do have to get that pesticide certification. And New Mexico's the only state, right, that it has that.
Well,
Why?
not necessarily. I didn't, let's put it that way, because at this point, all the other states, if we have one person in the group that has the pesticide and applicator's license, then we can work underneath that person within a 100-mile radius. But that no longer is the case in New Mexico, what we're finding out at this time. So I may not be able to dart it
Unless you get your.
unless I go through the whole process of becoming an applicator and, permitting and an applicator has to have a full pesticide license. So why that's the case, I don't know. But hopefully, maybe it's a snafu. I think there's probably been some people that got involved that maybe shouldn't have got involved. You're handling nothing hazardous, nothing at all. You can take this stuff. I've been in the lab where they're making this stuff. I mean, seriously, if you were hungry, you could eat it. I mean, it's just not. It's just natural byproduct of an animal. So it's mixed up. There's no drug part to it. So it's a kind of a crazy deal. That's my 2 cents. And I don't think it's probably going to make a hill of beans, what I think. So, but I'd like to be able to remain out there and do it. All the red tape and all the bureaucracy, but I won't have to deal with that if I go to work on Ikaria, because it's a sovereign nation and it doesn't apply. So, and probably on the Mountain View and places like that, you won't have to deal
So
with
you're doing darting on the res, or?
They are already on the res, but on the Navajo res, I know they are.
Okay. Do you know how long they've been doing darting on the Navajo res?
Excuse
Do
me?
you know how long they've been darting on the Navajo reservation?
It's been quite a few years.
Yeah, there started discussions on that like 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago. It was a huge opportunity for the Apache, the Navajo, and the Korean to explore not only the cultural beliefs, but the problems that they have.
Yes.
And so it's been talked about for many years.
One more question. Do you know what the cost is, and Monty, you might have researched this, but maybe you know, sir, the cost for training, is it Montana or the facility is?
Yeah, Dylan.
Patrick,
Yeah, it runs about,
it's 300 from the classroom. It's 300 from the classroom.
300, and then of course you're gonna incur motel and travel charges and stuff like
And
that.
then equipment costs.
And it's a very, very good class. Well done. We did have the people from Montana come down several months ago and did train some people locally. If they get enough people, they will come to you. And so it's a neat deal. I was kind of a lone wolf, and just me and another gal out of Colorado ended up there. We still had to put in all the hours, but it was good.
Okay, that's good. Glad to know. Where does the funding come from, on tribal lands, are they paying for it,
Oh,
or
yeah.
is it funded through?
So it would have to come from tribal government. It would not be administered through any governmental BIA agency or anything like that. That all comes, it comes from the tribe often.
And do they have to follow the same rules, like if the whole pesticide thing? No.
Sovereign nation.
Okay, so it's more flexible for that.
Funny how that works. All right, any other questions? And I'm going to turn it over to my neighbors to the right. And they can introduce themselves as they go.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Anderson. I'm with the National Mustang Association of Colorado. I'm doing a demo on Marvel in 15 minutes, so I'm going to go through some stuff pretty quick, and then I'll hand it over to Robert, and he can continue with some bait trapping talk. But I just wanted to introduce the automatic darting system that the Wildlife Protection Management has created. That might solve some of these problems trying to dart a horse between 30 and 50 yards when they're not habituated to humans. The topography is too extreme. It just takes a lot of man hours, and you got to keep that vaccine cool before you dart the horse. So it's not like you can camp overnight and try to find a horse, or maybe you can, just really get cooler. Anyways, this automatic darter that Rob Hart created through the Wildlife Protection Management, 3 horses can enter the system at a time. Each horse will enter a system on a different side. There's going to be bait in the middle, and the bait can be whatever you want. If it's alfalfa, if it's senior grain, even if it's water. If water is a lacking resource, we can put water in the center of this. Each horse will walk up to the bait. They will walk in between 2 panels by their shoulders. And this system is going to scan their shoulder to see if there's any microchip. If there's not a microchip, this automatic darter is going to implant a microchip into his tricep. That way, there's wildlife cameras watching this entire thing. So there's a person in the office watching the wildlife camera. They see that a horse got microchipped at a certain time, so they're going to look at that wildlife camera, and the biggest information they're going to put down is if it's a mare or if it's a stallion. So at that point, they say, oh, this is the mare. They might put the color, they might put an estimated age, but the sex is very important. That way, they can put on the system, hey, this mare with this microchip needs a PZP. That way, next time the mare walks up, the system will scan the microchip, and if it says PZP, the machine will dart the horse in the tricep with PZP. And this system is pretty cool. It has animal recognition, because there are a lot of feral cows out where the wild horses are out. So if a feral cow comes up, the system will close the bait door. That way the cow can't come up in the trap and eat the bait. And same if they have a band of horses that keeps coming up and they already darted them with PZP, they might even shut the door. They might tell the machine, hey, if these microchips come up, close the trap door to try to motivate the herd, the band to go away so they can get a new band to come in. This system is also portable. They can move it around, which is handy. And another thing is it's so versatile. And the team that's created this automatic darter, you can even tell the machine to take a hair sample of the horse. And that way you can send it to genetic testing. If you do want to allow certain horses to continue breeding, to prevent inbreeding, you can tell that microchip for that specific horse not to PCP it, to let it go ahead and breed. Rockhart has also, he's, documented the horses. The horse health has increased because these mares are giving birth every single year, and it's hard on the mare. If you have a 10-year-old mare that's been giving birth constantly, it's going to take a toll on her body. So they see visual health impacts for the PZP at these stations. What else was I going to tell you? There's videos of the horses coming up to the site. When they get darted, the horse will jump backwards, like look around, like what the heck just happened, and then it will walk back in. So wild horses do use this system. A lot of people are like, wild horse won't go near that. They do. Rockhart has been using it at his ranch in New Mexico for many years now. He has microchipped 160 wild horses, and he uses Gonacon instead of PZP. Gonacon is more of a permanent fertility control. He's also done it on the stallions just as an experiment, and it has sterilized the stallions as well. I know there's probably questions, but I gotta get going in like 5 minutes. I just want to talk about the bait trapping that we're utilizing at Mesa Verde National Park. Real quick, our mission is to preserve and protect horses in the wild and to promote conscious and humane herd management. I feel like NMACO kind of stands out from the other advocacy groups because we're trying to manage the horses before they're trauma-stricken, helicopter, rounded up, have this PTSD, and are thrown in these holding facilities where it's really hard to get them adopted. We're trying to get ahead of that. We really advocate for the PZP. Let's do fertility control. Let's manage the herd size to have to, to minimize having to remove them from the land if the land can't support that many animals. However, if there's a case where we do have to remove the horses, we are going to advocate for very specific bait trapping removal. Bait trapping can be a common term, however, methods can vary greatly depending on the bait trapping procedure. So, our bait trapping plan was created by Tim Gaffick, who was a former National Mustang Association board member, and Whit Hibbard. Tim is a horse trainer and a ranch manager consultant to ranches and businesses for over 30 years. He is a certified educator for holistic management and a member of the International Society for Equitation Science. Whit is a fourth-generation Montana cattle rancher, publisher, editor of Stockmanship Journal, and a former National Park Service mounted ranger. So we feel pretty fortunate that Mesa Verde wanted to work with National Mustang Association to create a plan to humanely remove the wild horses on the park. They have agreed to our plan. Our contract runs out through this year, so we hope that we'll renew it in the future so they continue using these methods. The trapping plan is based off the principles of behavioral science. Building trust over time with the wild horses with familiar people was a key element to the plan. In order to effectively, safely, and humanely capture the horses, the procedures must be followed sequentially, including baiting very often with cold water, hay, and minerals. Very often means that all bands are fully watered and fed and have their turn to enter the trap. This allows the bands to establish an order and feel confident that if they wait their turn, they can enter the trap for food, water, or minerals. In addition, the association that is made between the people and the delivery of water and food is key to reducing their flight distances and further help with trapping and handling. Over time, the trap will be set up around the bait, we'll have a big trough of water and we'll have some alfalfa. And once the horses get adapted to that and adapted to the people that routinely fill the water in the bait, we'll add some panels up. We'll add 2 rows of panels. And that way they'll walk in the panels, they'll eat, and they have 2 exits. They have 2 exits or entrances. And then once the bands start getting used to that, where they're not fighting, where they're taking turns to enter, so we're going to watch this on behavioral. We have wildlife cameras that we watch this on. as well as observation. Once they take turns and everything is calm, then we'll put a panel on the back side so that there's only one entrance and one exit. We'll put the food on the very back so they have to enter and then they have to exit. And this is a very important aspect of the process. It can take some time and patience until horses calmly enter and exit the trap without bands competing with each other. After a feral horse band is habituated to the corral baited with water, hay, salt, a gate will be remotely released to confine them. The captured horse band will be held in a holding pens for 15 to 30 days before release to National Mustang Association. NMACO has agreed to take ownership of all the horses coming off Mesa Verde National Park. These horses are not protected by the Wild Horse and Burro Act. Therefore, the standard protocol for governments is to dispose of them. That's the word they use. And disposing generally means that they're going to be taking them to the sale barn. Well, if you've ever been to a sale barn, not many people are going to try to adopt a wild horse they know nothing about. Therefore, more than likely, they're going to end up in Mexico slaughterhouses, which is very inhumane. And the trailer ride down, they may not even survive that. So that is why NMACO has agreed to take ownership of these horses. To date, we have trapped and removed about 40 horses. The temperament of these horses is completely different than a helicopter rounded up horse. They have no fear of people, they trust people. And we found them to be more easily trainable and more adoptable. And I'll be talking about that at my demo with Marvel, which I have to go to right now. But I'll have another demo tomorrow with Marvel if you guys want me to kind of tell you the differences between the helicopter rounded up horses and the bait trap, because there's a huge distinction.
You have 7 minutes if there's any closures that you'd like to do.
Well, he'll keep going, but I'm good.
We got 7 minutes, I'll beat that.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, Brian. My name is Robert Jordan, and I'm with Homeland Habitat, and we've got a non-profit organization. We've been trapping horses on the Hickory District for 4 years, going on 5 years. We've removed 250 head of horses. We've captured and removed by baiting, and then we just started on the Hickory Reservation trapping over there, also with the same method. And then we also do some capturing the bison in North Grand Canyon. So a little bit how we do that. We've got 3 different systems that we run, and I'm specifically talking about the automation. It's all remote. One of them is a portable system on wheels. We call it the Rapid Trap, and it tracks a satellite and gives us communication, and we're able to shut 2 different gates on the system. It's an outer corral and an inner corral, and they're in a circle. And the reason we do put them in circles is when you catch horses, they got to have a place to go. You can't square them up, or they'll start hurting themselves. So that's why it's designed the way it is. The 2 systems that we use here are they're manually panels that are loaded on a trailer, and we manually unload it when we set up our system, our trap. Now on our automation, that system we bought off-the-shelf system. You see them on the internet, the box and stuff. In our remote, where we're at, our charging system, we see negative 22 degree temperature. That's hard on batteries and charging systems. So we've kind of developed our own system. We've used SIM cards for cell systems to communicate. We've landed on the Starlink satellite system now. It's very humane. Out of that 250 head of horses, like I said, none of them have been hurt. Nothing, not hurt anybody. It's a very safe. We've got some pretty lengthy procedures on how to capture them and handle them within the corral, and how to get them in the trailer and transport. It's a fairly common type of trailer, but you don't want to do it with any trailers. There's things that for transport we need to kind of be cautious of. On baiting, it's a lot to it. I like to think of our system, our operations as 3 systems. We've got a guy in front, Mike, and he's out changing the bait, watching the behavior of the horses, how they're migrating. As Mike mentioned earlier, that water is a big issue in our territory, so they're moving from water to water to water. Mike's out there in front of them. We're pre-baiting them. Once they get comfortable with coming to an area, we'll come in, we'll set our trap, they'll come in, get them caught, we'll load them. And then we take them to Bloomfield, and that's where Barb and her team takes over, and there's a training process and vet check. We don't have a whole lot to do with that. Our stuff is pretty much in the field type stuff. Mike, am I missing anything? Have any questions? Yes.
The baiting process, how long does it take for you to set up your trap and your bait site? How long do you take to do that step?
It's 4 men and 8 hours. But by the time we drive out there to the location, pick up the old set site and go to the new site and set it up and dial it all in and bait it up, it's an 8-hour process.
How do you get the horses directly into the area where you can travel?
There's a lot to that. It's all on how the horses are traveling. It's all on how you pre-baited. Where the opening is, we've got triangles that hold the gate from dragging in the snow or the mud. So to reinforce them, and it's about how they travel, and you really need to set the gate where they're comfortable coming in.
Do you chase them in or herd them in? Or it's a
It's already
long
on.
migration path?
Yeah,
So you look at the migratory paths and then you set your site in accordance with that?
you bait them and get them in there, and they get real curious. You set a trap, and then they'll come into the trap and eat. We really focus on catching the band. I don't know the dynamics of our bands I can speak to, but if you've got a stud and a lead mare and some mares and babies, if you were to capture that stud and leave the rest out, there's 2 things that make everything left out savvy. So they know what a trap is now, and now they don't have a stud to protect them. So.
Are you familiar with how BLM does their big tracking and all? Where you can make comparisons as to how you do it versus how they do it?
I guess I'm not 100%. I guess I really don't know. I've seen their helicopter and I've seen some of their route design. Ours is a total different deal
With the bait tracking?
with our bait trap.
Okay, so you know, because you're a contractor for Forest Service with a bait trap. BLM does their own bait trap.
Right.
Well, this
So we're not a contractor. We don't have a contract with the Forest Service nor the tribe. We've got a shared partner agreement.
Oh, okay.
We do a lot of donating our time. We got 35 volunteers to help us move traps, bait. It's a lot of volunteer work.
And you know, I'm only because they did that bait traffic down on the corridor, which is BLM, and they had 8 horses die, and that they were all at the trap that were pre-existing conditions. And I'm like, okay, so how does that happen? 8 out of 230, that's a lot.
Did they die in the trap?
Yes, and they were not.
They weren't tending the trap?
Well, I have to send them away, because it was weird, because they list how many were gathered that day, how many were shipped, and how many died. So they have 0 gathered, 0 shipped, 2 dead. And then you might have 3 gathered, 0 shipped, 2 dead. You have to send them away in right now.
We've caught 250 dead. We put a lot of volunteers. We just tried ourselves. We shut the gate. If we can't shut the gate and get them removed and into the facility within 24 hours, they've got to be there to shut the call. They've got everything they need to survive. Within 24 hours, it doesn't matter if it's 2012 and we're on the free, chained up. We go and we shut the gate, and that's something that we can control, which is different than prior to the method that we're using today was the trip wire. So a horse would come in, get a fellow egg, start eating, and maybe 2 or 3 would get caught on the wire, or hit a wire and trip the gate. So the rest of them would be track set. We see that today on the same one. They don't know that. So we got control when we shut the gate. So if the whole family gets in there and we shut the gate, within 24 hours, times on 250, we had a horse that we've had in here and we've never heard of it.
One more question. Are there
Yeah, and I kind of know a little bit about it. And I can't speak directly to that, but I can show you our horses coming in and eating, and they're very comfortable when the gate shuts, the soft shut gate, and they'll go right back. And they're very comfortable. And then you show up with the trailer. We've got a message there. We walk in. We don't use right there with the trailer. We walk in. We get them in the middle of the ground. We shut that gate, and then we use that outer donut to load them in the horse trailer. We'll open the outer side gate back where the trailer is, and then when we take the horses out of the inside, it's like a candy cane, circles and that, and they're always moving. And when they get back to the trailer, we don't give them any pressure. When they're in the middle, it's uncomfortable. We make it uncomfortable. We got rattle paddles. We don't go rips or nothing. We got little rattle paddles that make noise. We put pressure on them. They can come back to the trailer, and then when they settle, we settle. And eventually, you know, it might take a couple hours. Eventually, they'll, but it's a real humane. They're watching. They're not bouncing off stuff.
That's where they break their necks. They're bouncing off, they're pushed too hard, and they end up breaking their necks.
They got to have a place to go all the time.
Once you set up your 8 hours, team set up the trap, how long does it take for the horses on average to come in? Before you can track them?
Man, it really does. And if you're set in the right spot, you're set on migration. So it's in the fall, and they're migrating to their winter place. So you'll catch a band within 24 hours.
Oh,
And
really?
then you'll remove that band, and then you let it, we call it soak. We'll let it soak for a couple of weeks. Another band will start coming in and eating. And we'll just keep baiting them, and I'll just keep feed there. So.
How, like, the size of the trap, I mean, what if you have a band, a really large band, and there's 40, 50, I mean.
Very good question. Well, the bison, for example, we're capturing 180 head at a time. It's the automation of the gate. They own the corral system over there, but I'm saying it's the automation of the gate. Our system, they're 55, 60-foot corrals, the outer corral is, and then the 48-foot inner corral. And if you get a band together, it's pretty common to be able to get 14 head. Now you get some bachelor in there and create a little bit of drama within the herd, you're not going to get that thing in there. And we're real cautious about shutting the gate if that's the case.
So
Usually
does it
the gate-
automatically, like, if, are you watching it?
I'm watching it.
Oh, so you're watching it, you got somebody watching it 24/7?
Yeah.
But then if you shut the gate and you've got half the band outside and the other, and like the stallions on the inside and the lead bears on the outside, I mean, does that create a lot of hassle?
So one of our techniques there is we'll go outside to the trap, one of us will go over there and we'll put them in the inside donut. We'll shut that gate, leave that herd there. We'll bake the outside donut. So that night, the rest of the horses will come in with the band, and then we'll shut the gate on the rest of the band.
That's a pretty good scenario.
Yeah. So that's one of our techniques.
What's your average band size, or what's the range?
Last week we caught 14 head in one band. This morning I had 2 notifications with a horse, a band of 2 in there. But I would say on average, on the parcel when we started, we were averaging 8 to 12 head. Today we're probably averaging 6. We see a lot of 5 and 6. A 9 is a pretty big band now. So. And it really depends on the time of year. Like in the winter, it gets real cold, and they'll huddle up at the bottom of the canyons. And I'm not saying they're in a herd, but they'll get closer together. And then when it starts warming up, they start dissipating out.
Interesting, so you're like covered by 2 different, I'm just going back to the why you don't track them to dark to treat them, but you're kind of working, like, you're kind of working in separate, like,
And just to speak a little bit to that, we've had several of these conversations, and I think the appropriate management level is how they judge the forest, and they want between 55 on a drought year and 105 head on a flourishing year. And that's the AML of that territory. Once we start getting really close to that management level of horses, I think that's a good thing to do, is start catching them, calm them down a little bit, maybe dart them with easy feed, and then release. And that's on the forefront, but our horse population is out of balance right now, so everything we can. When we work together, we try not to,
I see.
if he does a $35 shot or he darts some horses, we really don't want to go in and try to capture them. And these guys, if we can do it.
But if you trap a mare that's been treated, you're still gonna remove her
Yeah.
until you kind of hang
But
out.
when they out that horse out, they apparently know, hey, this horse isn't going to breed.
So you get hanging out, then if you trap them, okay.
So what Bonnie was speaking to, I think, you know, we could turn our system more into something like that. And you'd have to have a lot of systems.
Yeah, I wish she could have taken some questions. I know he's been trying for a long time to write in BLM and to jump onto the remote domain. And I asked him one time, I said, well, why not up the tribal lands where they desperately need it? And he kind of insinuated maybe we have to reach out to him to bring remote darting onto.
He's talking, Rob Carter's been talking to that information. It'd be fascinating, it would be a great example if he's got a couple of contracts or he's going to sell a couple of machines or contractions. That would be a good study. And just see, on range, how does it work? There is so much difference in terrain. That is wide open spaces, and his area is quite, it's got a lot of different terrain. It's treacherous in certain areas. And so, maybe they've got a lot of trees or valleys or meadows. But anyhow, that is something he's looking into. He's trying to get a couple of contracts. There's some limitations. Something will go on or they won't, they won't allow that. They only want PCP or maybe.
Even on tribal lands?
I don't know what their policies are, but I'm looking forward to finding out. So,
The reason they have to use those cars is because they can't be given the price that NBC is not able to have to use off-label veterinarians. So it's possible to be complete in the WPN.
Unless the community society changes this policy, you will never see law firms program using PCP.
Really?
Because they will not accept the injection to the front. They will not accept PCP into the front.
and why
So
does
why
that
can't it use off-label veterinarian?
Well, somewhere along the line, I'm going to do it. For Patrick's whole.
Sure. But there are drugs that veterinarians can use off-label as long as that veterinarian can do it. It doesn't matter who the original captain is, it's just that veterinarian is responsible should there be any adverse effect. So sticking it out in terms of humane society, it's something that
It's a huge calculus. I don't know exactly which walls can I get back first.
I would think manufacturer of PCT, as long as Montana was okay, the veterinarian would say, okay, then each humane society can sue them if that's the case. But
Hey.
not all is okay.
We have to wrap this conversation up. We have more stuff going on outside. So I want to thank our presenters. This is Robert and I'm sorry, what's your name?
Mike Leonard.
And Mike Leonard. And we have going on out here in the 505 Corral is going to be Lorelei Harper talking about genetics, and then we have Josh Nunn doing a live demo on shoeing horses. And I'm Robin Kelly. I own the Lenore, and I'm just going to put in a little plug. Upstairs, I have an Airbnb that I just opened. So if you have anybody that's coming through town, if you want to do workshops and things like this, upstairs and downstairs, I encourage you to take part and come and stay at the Lenore. Pretty soon we'll have an espresso machine. Thank you, and thank you guys.